Do you have a free will? Did you just choose to see this video? Or did that choice happen because one marble in your brain was struck by another marble in your brain, which was struck by some marble from the outside world? Maybe you're just living in a causal chain of events with no chooser there to start the process or to intervene in it. What would that say for how we view ethics? Are you responsible for what you do? Today, we are digging into a big question. Is there free will? What is free will? To answer, we need to first define the question, and it seems like it has two halves. The first half of the question is, what is doing the willing? The other half is, what is it free of? So let's take the first half first. Who or what is doing the willing? For a long time, the best explanation for willing was simple. Humans had a physical body, and we had an unphysical soul. It was the soul that made the decisions. This fits neatly with our intuitions. It's hard to shake the idea that there is a little person inside the shell of our body choosing which path to take. This preconception is religious, but it isn't just religious. There probably is an evolutionary advantage to thinking of ourselves as a unit, as a self. It is likely that this perception is hardwired into us. Many schools of thought will lean into this intuition. Traditional deists say it is a God-given soul that wills. Kantians say it is a rational agent, though not a soul. Panpsychists say that consciousness is fundamental to matter, that it somehow aggregates into minds. Modern, non-religious dualists posit an undiscovered substance inside us, something soul-like, even if it's not supernatural. However, modernity has not cooperated with this intuitive picture of a body guided by a metaphysical entity within it. Starting in the 1950s, the Canadian neurosurgeon Wilder Penfield applied electrodes to the brains of fully conscious patients under local anesthesia. Penfield specialized in treating epilepsy by removing cerebral tissue. Much like how a controlled burn in a forest can prevent wildfires, destroying parts of the brain was thought to be an effective way to constrain seizures. Penfield used electrical stimulation to determine which areas of the brain could be safely excised without impairing functioning too severely. But what was intended to be a therapeutic process became a commentary on consciousness. Sometimes the electrodes triggered physical movements in these fully conscious patients. Other times, the electrical signals released exceptionally vivid sensations or memories. One patient reported hearing a Beethoven symphony. Another was plunged into a reverie. This is a directly quoted account from one patient. I hear voices. It is late at night around the carnival somewhere, some sort of traveling circus. If real electrical circuitry can poke at our organic electrical circuitry and elicit the beauty of music, the poetry of memory, things we see as representing our soul, what space does that leave for an actual soul? I lead with Penfield's findings because they are vivid and compelling, but they are far from the only evidence for neural correlates of consciousness. We believe brain matter drives decision-making because we've observed deficits following brain injuries. We've made measurements of brain activity using tools such as the fMRI machine. We've intervened directly into brain chemistry of drugs, and we've studied how minds emerge, change, deteriorate as brains develop and degenerate. It's an enormous body of data. The findings of the biological sciences are persuasive, but each arriving year, each arriving week, if we're to be frank, computer science provides further proof of concept for a physicalist explanation of cognition and mind. Today, large language models made of silicon instead of cells can perform relational, cognitive, creative, and communicative tasks that only a few years ago we would have sworn required a human mind. This doesn't prove anything about our consciousness, of course, but it shows what is possible with a purely physical system. It is not that it is impossible for these other theories to be correct, but the metaphysical entities these theories hypothesize have not been identified, much less observed in their interaction with the body or correlated with decision-making. The physical matter of the brain, on the other hand, has been. So if we go with the evidence, the conclusion is clear. It is the physical matter in our brain that wills. Now, the other half of the free will question, what do we mean by free? Free of what? Some will say free of God's interference, free of external coercion, such as the rule of a political tyrant, free of psychological compulsions like a drug addiction, for instance, free of fate or predestination. Of course, these other questions are worthy, but the freedom I want to focus on is the freedom from causation. To use the classical framing, we have free will if we could have behaved otherwise. If, on the other hand, our behavior is determined completely by prior factors, then we don't really have a free will. So great, we have framed the question now, but we might not like the answer. How could it even be possible to have a will that is free of causation? This is sometimes referred to as a contra-causal free will. We could look at this at the level of physics. If we were made of physical matter, and if that matter obeys physical laws, then what space is there for free will, independent of those laws? Where is the willing coming from? We could also look at this at the cellular level. If our brain is made out of neurons that transmit electrochemical signals, and each neuron fires when it is sufficiently acted upon by other neurons, then what space is there for free will, independent of that chain of neural causation? Or we could look at it on the genetic level. If our predispositions are not shaped by nature, genetics, or nurture, our environment, then what exactly is shaping us? Science does not leave much room for contra-causal free will. Now, does that mean that a scientist of tomorrow could come in and predict our choices with perfect precision? Is human behavior fully predictable? Probably not. There are many systems in our body, from the atomic level to the cellular and organic level, that cannot be measured without interfering with their original state. For that reason alone, we can be fairly confident that no one, now or in the future, will be able to predict our actions with 100% accuracy. But just because our future actions aren't predictable doesn't mean they aren't predetermined. Could it be that the future is already written? Is there such a thing as fate? Here we can't be quite as confident, but probably not. Modern physics tells us that probability is built into nature at the quantum level. And in some systems, this uncertainty might not average out. It could be amplified instead. The standard example is a butterfly flapping its wings and through a cascade of effects contributing to a hurricane on the other side of the world. But that still doesn't make us free, does it? Just because random permutations might change things up in life, making it both unpredictable and undetermined, doesn't give us a will that is free of causative constraints. Randomness is not freedom. The conclusion that we don't have a free will unsettles many people because of its ethical implications. Interestingly, the problem isn't when we apply ethics to others. If someone's behavior is caused by factors beyond their choosing, that doesn't make the tools of ethics or law ineffective. Punishments and rewards still work. Indeed, they are causative forces themselves. What we might lose is the anger of applying punishment, the feeling that these transgressors are rotten and deserve what they get. But that's probably good, right? It allows us to apply punishment with equanimity. And that's a positive thing. The problem is when we try to act ethically ourselves. Let me give you an example of an inner dialogue. I will try to donate more money to the poor this year. But how can I try to give more money? I don't have free will. I won't even try to be good because there's no one there to try. Not having a free will breeds nihilism, it is said. If we don't have a free will, then we don't have responsibility. There is some experimental evidence in support of this. In 2008, Vos and Schooler divided subjects into two groups, one primed with writings that denied free will, and another given neutral content. The first group was more likely to cheat when performing a set task. I should say, the attempts to replicate these results show that the effects are highly context dependent. Still, the worry remains. One possible solution is to say, sure, we don't have free will, but thinking that we do is a useful illusion. So let's tell everyone that we have free will so that the moral order doesn't collapse. This is what Leo Strauss would call a noble lie, something the cognitive elite keeps in their back pocket away from the common rabble because it's dangerous knowledge. But say we don't have an appetite for that sort of elitism. In that case, we can try to salvage responsibility. The school of thought that says that human actions are fully caused by prior states, but there is still free will and moral responsibility, is called Compatibilism. Among the thinkers that have made this argument are Daniel Dennett, Harry Frankfurt, Patricia Churchland, and P.F. Strawson. However, they often answer the question by redefining it, dodging it, or diffusing it in some way, rather than confronting it head on. The answer most satisfying, to me at least, comes from J.L. Garfield. He doesn't try to salvage responsibility at all, but still succeeds in presenting an ethical scheme. Garfield is unusual in that he is a contemporary American philosopher fluent in the Western tradition, while also deeply grounded in the Eastern philosophies that have been wrestling with these same questions for more than 2 millennia. For Garfield, there is no free will because there is no self, something quite concordant with modern science. Instead, he says we are persons. He defines a person as a construct, a sort of dramatic role that is embodied in an organism, embedded in a society, and inactive in the world. This reframing solves the ethical problem because once we recognize how deeply interdependent we are with everyone and everything else, ethical behavior makes sense in a new and deeper way. When you lose the illusion of a separate self, you don't act morally to accumulate merit. You try to reduce suffering because suffering is bad, whether it happens to your body or somebody else's. You favor flourishing because flourishing is good, regardless of who benefits. If you and others are not fundamentally separate, then do unto others as you would have them do unto you starts to feel less like a rule and more like the natural course of things. You might object, who is doing the doing? But denying that your intent has an immaculate conception free of any causation does not mean you do not have an intent. Of course you have an intent. You have lots of intents. You want food, sex, status, happiness. And in the last 48 hours, I can almost guarantee you've done something in pursuit of at least one of them. That's real. So let's return to the intention we started with. Did you freely choose to see this video? Did a little person inside you decide to click play? The real answer is far more interesting. You, a biological marvel shaped by millions of years of evolution, by years of immersion in education and culture, had the disposition to expand your knowledge further. You click play. Now an idea that might be new to you is knocking about in your head. You, a person, not a self, a construct, not an entity, are part of a stream of causation we live in. Yes, you have agency, but it is bigger than you. No little decider in you, just a grand stream that you are part of and you participate in. Does knowing that change you? Even a little bit? It's exciting. You're going to find out. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you would like to receive even more free content, sign up for my Substack, link in the description, where you will get a weekly email with new videos and essays.